Hey everybody, what's going on? It's James here with Crypto Common Sense. I figured I'd sit down again this evening and shoot a video. I'm going to talk about Bitcoin, maybe stocks in a few minutes, but let's just focus on Bitcoin at first. So yesterday's video, I talked about how Bitcoin's daily chart was sneaking under this level back here, and that if it pulled back up and closed with a tail right around that level, that it could actually be signaling a bear trap and actually be bullish in nature. Signaling a move up toward the top of this range. It looked good, right? It did pull back up, and so that was like, okay, maybe it's time to look for some long setups if you're trading it. I did watch it, kind of kept an eye on it, and it, looked good for, a little bit, and then just had another bad day today. But, if I had to choose right now, I would still lean more bullish than bearish on Bitcoin. And I say that because a lot of times what you get with markets is you actually get what's called a range expansion. And so it looks like, oh, this is probably the range through here. Here's my low. But it very well could be that it just expanded the range, maybe back to this particular low back here. And maybe this candle here actually ends up being the trap where it's snuck below. Maybe this is going to pull back and close at or above it. So there's always that possibility where that's what happens. And essentially it ends up being a fake out that goes back toward the top of the range, or even potentially, a fake out that just goes back kind of to this area through here. And remember, support and resistance, contrary to a lot of people's belief, is not a line. It's a zone. So this area through here, it may be that it bounces up, hits that, and then actually starts a markdown phase. That is potentially possible. Maybe marks down back to these old highs back through here. But right now, short term, I still lean, like I said, more to the bull side because it does look like it's possibly a range expansion for one. For two, we did have really high volume yesterday. We had high volume again today. And even with all that volume, it's not really, continuing that move down. It pulled back here, but right now it's barely lower than yesterday's low. So it almost looks like that supply is being absorbed by demand. And then if we look down at RSI, and again, RSI is very dangerous to use RSI blindly thinking in terms of oversold and overbought. That's not how RSI actually works. I know it's how it's taught, but it's not true. Okay, I show people this all the time where if you try to blindly follow RSI, you'll be in big, big trouble. But if you use RSI in the context of a market, for example, if you have been in an extended uptrend like we have, on Bitcoin. I know this has been a range, but I'm talking about larger time frame, right? We look at like a monthly chart. This is all an extended time frame, uptrend, looks like a bull flag, hit its target, having a pullback. It's possible that this RSI being oversold like this is actually meaningful. And again, if you look back in July and August, like here's July, June, July, right? It started to range sideways, started to go through an accumulation, and then here, had the big bear tail, sent down, trapped shorts, and then moved off of it. So I do find this to be suspicious that we're down at this level because we haven't been in like a really strong downtrend or a bear market where it's like, okay, you're going to hit oversold and stay there or bounce a little bit and go down further and bounce a little bit and go down further because that's what happens in bear markets. We've really been in a range. So for this to hit low like this after a range smells more like a trap, but I could be wrong. I've been wrong plenty of times before and I'm wrong all the time. Right. I mean, I'm wrong at least, 50% of the time. I mean, maybe not 50%, but pretty close. Wrong a lot. So we'll have to find out, we'll have to wait and see. But those are the reasons that I still tend to lean more to the bull side on Bitcoin. Okay. If I look at the weekly charts, it is coming very, very close to this target. And again, I'm not in this short position because I do not have a way to short Bitcoin itself. But if I was in this position, I would be looking down at these smaller time frames and I would be aggressively, had the hiccups, protecting my profits. For example, I would probably say, okay, well, this has come down, how it will bounce, come down. I would probably be moving my stop to this level to protect any profits that I had if I was in the trade, but I'm not. If this does end up pulling back and especially closing, above these lows around 89,000, again, on a weekly chart, that's going to look pretty suspicious and we could have a big tail left behind. And then that could be the fuel for that next leg up. So that would be interesting. But at the same time, important to realize if we go look at a monthly chart if this was our pullback, we have taken out that low. So unless this is going to be a complex pullback where we get like a, an A, B, C, and then more upside, this could also be a turning point where we move back down to test this old range back here. If we look at the monthly RSI, it's a little bit sketchy because we did have this, huge high back here in 2021, and we do have a pretty clean trend line coming down. And historically, this is one of the ways that I have used RSI, is to find these trend lines. I know not a lot of people talk about them, but they're very effective. And we do have that. But if we zoom in, it's not perfect, right? It did sneak above it a little bit here, but got a double top on RSI, confirmed. Actually not confirmed, sorry. This candle's not closed, but probably going to confirm unless something magical happens in the next 2 days. So that's interesting. But on the bull side, you also have this green trend line. And so this pulls back a little bit and closes right on it. We would just be retesting this support level. So again, like any market, there's always going to be, a case for bulls and a case for bears, because that's how markets stay liquid. If there wasn't a chance that it could go either way, nobody would take the other side of the trade. So those are my thoughts on Bitcoin, right? If we look at a Bitcoin market cycle chart real quickly, we'll see that, essentially what has happened, it's come up, it's tested the all-time high versus the QQQ, and it has had a pullback. I was a little bit surprised that it pulled back versus the QQQ. Even pulling back versus the US dollar, I figured they would fall together, because typically when you hit resistance and consolidate like this, it's usually a sign that strength is building and you're going to break through. So this was a little bit of a surprise to me. It's dropped over 10% in 3 days versus the QQQ, which is not great. But it is possible that what's happening is we're just before optimism, and we could still be making our way through this choppier part of the chart, specifically maybe even this bear trap area right here before our next move up. All right, because again, it is common for profits to be taken around all-time highs like that. Now, that being said, if we look at a futures chart for the QQQ, or for the NASDAQ rather, it is still trapped in this range. And so it could be that this is going to continue down and test the bottom of this range, which is going to take a drop of about roughly another 2 to 3%. Bitcoin tends to be correlated with the NASDAQ, and so that could potentially push Bitcoin down further as well. And then, big picture, if this actually ends up being like a market top in the NASDAQ, then yeah, Bitcoin's probably in real trouble. All right, and then it is looking a little uncomfortable on the NASDAQ right now. And we had this big, basically shooting star type of candle. That didn't look great. Then we had this spinning top type of candle. It was like, okay, maybe this is just a pause for more upside. Started to look that way, and now we've got this big nasty February candle here. It's definitely a range. We'll have to see which way the range breaks and be mindful that we don't want to get caught in a liquidity trap on either side of it. But yeah, it's not real encouraging. So there could be some potential pain there. And again, I firmly believe that'll bleed over into Bitcoin if that comes to pass. As far as low float stocks, today was a bit of a slow day on those. There was only 4 of them that popped up on the scanner. And I don't have all 4 of them pulled up, but there was really only one of them that I felt was really tradable. And that was, of course, the one I don't have open. So this was one, didn't look great, real gappy, no action. Popped up, basically a single candlestick, looked like a pump, maybe a pump and dump type of feel. At least from a TA standpoint, moved sideways, and then just didn't look great. It's immediately down off start. This one, Mullen Automotive, it looks like maybe somebody could have gotten down here, but I think it's a stretch. I think it's one of those hindsight things where somebody, oh yeah, I would have got in there. I wouldn't. So, it was basically dead all post-market, pre-market, and then went straight up. The only one that was really tradable, in my opinion, was this Bioscience stock, but it wasn't great either. It didn't have a big reward to risk ratio for it because it had this gap that, was essentially a gap fill line. And so when you go over to a 5-minute chart, it did look good post-market last night, or looked good pre-market, and it did pop. But even if somebody was playing the break of this range, they probably might have been able to get 2, maybe 3R before it hit this, resistance level. And that's where I would personally be looking to get out. I wouldn't be looking to ride that until it proved to me that it was strong enough to carry on. So not great, kind of a slow day on those. So I'll wrap the video up there. Please remember I'm some guy sitting in his spare bedroom. So nothing in the video is financial advice. You should always go out and do your own due diligence and seek out professional financial advice from a licensed financial advisor before making any type of investment in cryptocurrency, the stock market, precious metals, Forex, or any other tradable assets. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing to the channel. And as always, please remember to trade and invest safely.